Hello everybody. Welcome at Learning is Fun with Prajnaparamita. In my last video, I have already told you about English verbs. Today, I am going to tell you more interesting facts about the auxiliary verbs and the modal auxiliaries. That is, sometimes we have to use may, might, can, could, would, will, but they have their differences in meaning while using them in English sentences. So let's see what are those differences and which one are the called only auxiliary or primary auxiliary and which verbs are called modal auxiliary. I am going to tell you in this video. If you watch the video till the end, you will get all this knowledge together. So let's see what are there. Here, first of all, we have to know why do we need auxiliary verbs. We need auxiliary verbs to add meaning to the verb phrases. That is, sometimes we want to question or negation, or we have to tell the time or tense, completion, continuation, repetition, willingness, possibility, and obligations. In all these cases, we have to use the auxiliary verbs. Here, there are two types of auxiliary verbs, that is the modal auxiliaries and the primary auxiliary verb or the primary verbs. What is the difference? That is, a modal auxiliary can act only as auxiliary verbs. For example, she can eat a large pizza. Here you find can is a modal auxiliary verb that tells you the ability of that person. But here the primary verbs, when we are talking about the primary verbs or primary auxiliary verbs, they can use both as an auxiliary verb and as a main verb. For example, she has eaten a pizza or she has a pizza for her lunch. In these two sentences, you find in the first case, she has eaten a pizza. Here, has or the verb have form of the verb have is used to denote the tense which is written in present perfect tense. But here, has is a main verb. So, what are the primary verbs then? Here, the verb I have told you which are used both as main verb and auxiliary verbs, and the primary verbs are be verb, have verb and do. These three verbs can used both as a primary verb and as an auxiliary verb, that is a main verb and auxiliary verb. Let's see the examples. Here, is it raining? Here, is a form of be verb which is used here to state the continuity of that action, or it is written in present continuous tense. Similarly, I have finished my work. Here, have is used to add the aspect of tense that is perfect, that it is written in present perfect tense. Or she doesn't want to stay here. Do, auxiliary do is used to make the sentence the negative one. Now, let's see where we can use this verb as a main verb. For example, she is my cousin. Here, be verb is used as a linking verb. If you wish to know about the linking verb, you must watch my video on verb. I will provide the link in the description box below. Similarly, we don't have any money. Here do, here it is not an auxiliary. Here auxiliary do is used, but have is used also. Here have is used as a main verb. We don't have any money. But in this sentence, what have you been doing here? Here the do verb is not an auxiliary verb. Here do is used as a main verb. Now, I am going to tell you about the modal auxiliary verbs. First of all, we have to know the grammatical aspects or grammatical differences of the modal auxiliaries. What are they? Usually, or in every cases, modal auxiliary don't have any s ending. We have already noticed that there is a difference between primary auxiliary and the modal auxiliary. This is the another vital difference, that is modal auxiliary do not have any s ending. For example, we may say that she may know his address, but we never say she mays or she cans. We never say that. Now, modal auxiliary, when we use modal auxiliary in a sentence, in case of questions, negations, etc., we do not use any other auxiliary like do or anything. For example, if we say, can you swim? But you never say, do you can swim? It is not possible. When you are using modal auxiliaries, you do not use the other auxiliary or the do verb to make it a question. And no infinite participle or past form and ing forms. In case of modal auxiliary, they are the tense-free element. You do not put any tense element with the modal auxiliary. They don't have any ing form. They don't have any infinitive form or participle form, except you have never use to after any modal auxiliary except ought to. Here the examples is that you don't say to may or to can. This is no infinitive form. You never say maying. Don't no ing form, made, etc. We never use that thing. So modals are tense-free element. They don't have any s ending, and in case of question and negation, we do not need other auxiliary to assist them. Now, modal auxiliary, as I have told you earlier, that they add various meaning to the main verb, mostly with degree of certainty and obligation. There are two types of meanings segment I am going to tell you in the latter part of the slide, and how show you how these things acts. Here are the modals like can, may, must, should, would, could, might, shall, will. All these modals are used either to denote the degree of certainty or obligation. Now let's see what are the degree of certainty and obligations are. If I say we will be there around 7:30, that means we will be there at that time, and it is obvious, it is definite. I am talking about that. So when we are talking about certainty or obviousness, we have to use the modal auxiliary. Similarly, I must go there. This is the obligation. I have to. In that sense, I also we have to use the modal verbs. Now, there are some semi-modals. That is, they add meaning to the main modal verbs. They are used with the main modal verbs. What are they? They are there, need, used to, ought to, etc. Now, what are the degree of certainty then? In which cases we use that thing? For example, when we are certain or we think it is obvious and inevitable, we have to use the modals in case of degree of certainty. Sometimes it is probability or possibility. In case of weak probability, that is, it may be or might be, habitual probability and conditional probability. In all these cases, we have to use the modals like shall, will, would, must, should, ought to, may, might, can, and could. So in order to say the degree of certainty, and in these cases, in these 5 cases, you have to use these modals, verbs. Now let's see the examples. Here, complete certainty, either it is positive or negative. We can say that I shall be away tomorrow. I shall not be late tomorrow. This is the certainty, complete certainty, and both are used both in positive and in negative sense. Things will be all right. It is also the certainty denoting, and they knelt in front of a child who would one day rule all England. I told you, you won't be ready in time. You must be tired. They can't be that can't be John. He is in Dublin. That is, all these cases refers to the fact these are very certain, and I am knowing about the fact, and they are the fact depicting the obvious facts. Now, what is the possibilities and probabilities then, and which models we are using in case of these probability and possibility? When we are trying to make something probable or possible, we use should, ought to, or may. For example, she should or ought to be here soon, or we may say we may be buying a new car. This is all these cases refer to probability or possibility. Similarly, in case of weak probability or weak possibility, we also use modal verbs like might and could. But remember one thing here: if it is a strong possibility, we can use may, ought to, or should. But if it is a weak possibility, we have to use might and could. Here, it might rain today. That means it may be or may not be. There is the possibilities of raining is very faint, and but if we say it may rain today, that means it obvious it is raining today. And we could be millionaires one day. It means here could is used for the weak possibility, we could be or can't be. That in both cases I am not possible, or we are not knowing these things definitely. This is a weak probability. Now, habitual possibilities, what are that? We have to use can be, may, and have if we are talking about the habitual possibilities. Here, New England can be warm in September. That is, this is an habitual possibilities that is going on day by day in and every year. In that cases, we have to say the habitual possibilities. They may have difficulty to reach there. They may have difficulty to reach there. In that case also, that means the habitual possibilities. Here, there are some conditional possibilities also. That is, in that case, we have to use would, could, or might. If it is habitual possibility, we have to use can be, may, and may have. But in case of conditional possibility, we have to use would, could, or might. For example, if we had enough time, things would be easy. Here, look, if we had enough time, this is a condition, then we have to use things would be easy. Here, in case of these conditional possibilities, we have to use the modals like would. Similarly, if John came, we could all go home. Here also there is a conditional phrases are used, that is if, and if it is happened, then you have to do that, and the modal is used like could. Similarly, might also, if you stop criticizing, I might get some time work done. In both cases, if it is a conditional probability or possibility, you have to say you have to use would, could, and might. Now, what is obligation and freedom then? Very important. This is used in polite expressions of request, suggestion, invitation, and instruction. In those cases, you have to use the modals like must, will, etc. If you are talking about a strong obligation, for example, student must register their name within 1st September. This is a strong obligation. We have to use must. All staff will arrive by 8:30 a.m. Here also you have to say that all staff, they must come or they will arrive within time. This is also a strong obligation. Similarly, need I get a visa for Egypt? In all these cases, you find must, will, and need are used in case of strong obligations. Now, prohibition, that is when we are asking someone not to do, that means prohibit something, we have to use must, may, and can. For example, student must not use mobile in exam. You know the meaning. The students are prohibited to use mobile in the examination hall. Books may not be taken out of the library. Here, may not be taken means you are not allowed to do that. You can't come here in. So in all these cases, when you are talking about not to do something, you are not allowed to do something, you must use these modals like must, may, and can. Now, if you are talking about recommendation, you are recommending something, you have to use the modals like should, might, ought to. For example, you should work harder. This is my recommendation about you. If you work hard, you will succeed. So you have to say you should work harder. Similarly, she really ought to wash her hair, or you might see what John thinks. So all these are the recommendations. Now, absence of obligations. If there is no obligations, if you are allowed, you can use the modals like need not. For example, you needn't work this Saturday. Now, in case of state about willingness, insisting, offering, we have to use modals like will or would. For example, I will definitely work harder next time. That is my willingness. And I would be highly obliged if you do the needful. Here, this phrase we are using every day in while we are writing an official letter or something like that. So, in that polite case, offering my opinion, you have to say in a more polite way. You have to use the modals like would. Now, permission. If you are seeking permission, you have to use modals like can, may, and might. Never use other modals. So, you remember that. So, can I borrow your books? May I use your phone? Or do you think I might take a break now? Now, if you are talking about ability of something or doing something, you have to use modals like can. For example, she can speak 6 languages. Here you find can denoting the ability of that person. I can swim. Now, here, this is all about the modal verbs. If you have any queries regarding this, please do not hesitate to ask me. If you are asking through the comment section, or I have provided my WhatsApp number and email, you have to write your queries. I definitely answered them. So, thank you for listening. No more today, and bye-bye.